Okay, our last example is one that's a little bit complicated. Okay, so make sure you pause it and make sure you really can follow the steps. So we've got the function f of x equals x squared times the square root of 9 minus x squared. And we know that this function only exists on the interval -3 to 3 because that's what our domain is here inside the square root. So first we're going to find the first derivative by using the product rule and then the chain rule as well. But make sure you can find that first derivative. We're going to simplify by making a common denominator of the square root of 9 minus x squared. Okay, we'll simplify those fractions right here. Okay, and then we multiply out the top and simplify the numerator. And then we want to figure out where does this is our derivative right here, where does it equal 0? And we know that it equals 0 when the top equals 0, when the numerator is 0, so when x equals 0 right here, or when 6 minus x squared equals 0, which is going to be at plus or minus the square root of 6. Now, we have to take this and find the second derivative. So that's going to be a pain in the butt. So we have to use the quotient rule. Okay. And we're going to get this whole messy thing. We're going to multiply by the square root of 9 minus x squared and the square root of 9 minus x squared, so we can get rid of that in the denominator there. And so that gets us here. Okay, once we're here, we simplify the numerator. We can cancel some things out, do some combining of like terms, and we get here. Now, in order to find out where this second derivative equals 0, we're going to want to do that on our calculator. We can find out where this numerator is 0. And we know that it doesn't exist anywhere where the denominator is, or when x equals -3 or 3, but we've already defined our function to where it doesn't exist there as well. Those are our endpoints. So now we make our sign chart. Here's so all of our endpoints and our critical points are right here. We know our function goes from -3 to 3, and at -3 and 3, it doesn't exist. And then we've got our critical points are the square root, the negative square root and positive square root of 6, and then 0. So this is something you would want to do on your calculator, finding these derivatives and making your sign chart, knowing whether the function is increasing, decreasing, increasing, or decreasing. And then we also find our critical points of the second derivative. And we find those on the calculator by setting this numerator equal to 0. Okay, right, these are the solutions to that. And we know that there the second derivative is 0. And then we can test points as well to see whether the second derivative is negative, positive, or negative. So make sure you try that. Make sure you test those points and make sure you can do it. Then after we do that, we make our table. So we've got a table. This table uses values from our original function. So these are all of our critical points. And we plug all of these critical points into our original function to get out these y values. This is something you would want to do on a calculator. Once we have all of these, we can write all of our sentences. Right? We can write when f of x is increasing. We can write where it's decreasing. We can say where it's concave up, where it's concave down. We can write where our local max occurs and why we know that the local max occurs there. We can say where our local min occurs. and why we know that's a local min. And then we can say what our points of inflection are. And we can say that we know that our points of inflection are places where we don't have a max or a min. There are critical points, but there are critical points where there are no max and min. So make sure you really spend some time to process this, okay? Don't just copy it down. Make sure you spend some time, process it, and make sure you can do it. And then you're going to be doing this process on some of your homework problems. So your homework problems are 1 through 29 odd. 17, 21, and 27 are really messy. So make sure you use a calculator on those problems to make your sign charts. All right, so when you're done with this, you're just going to work on 4-2 with your teammates for the rest of class. Oh, and do your IA assignment. Do your IA reading and mark up that IA.